2025 was supposed to be my biggest year in Paris, but by the time it was June, every big project I was working on was dead in the water. My nationality application was in a stalemate situation. I was looking for a new house in Paris for my nationality application as well, and that did not really go anywhere. At work, it was kind of stagnating kind of position. That was hard. It was quite overwhelming at that point. I didn't think that my data job would give me the clues to unblock my personal life, and that's what I'm talking about in this video. Now, it comes to like a team having a roadblock at work, it might feel like a bottleneck, a roadblock, But when it happens to you all by yourself in your private life, this can feel like a failure, especially if they all stack up above each other and then you feel completely stuck in life. And that's how I felt for the most part this year, really. And today I'm showing you this parallel processing framework, which I use to unstick like 7 different project areas of my personal life. I use this exact same logic for my data migration job, and I had absolutely no idea that it could be applied to my personal life too. Now, for months, I did what came naturally to me, to throw myself a pity party and to avoid this problem because it's not moving. Now, these weren't 7 overnight projects that I could hackathon my way out over a weekend or something. These were like life goal kind of projects, and it was something that I could have achieved this year. But until June, July, none of them had moved at all. Now, if you're new here, my name is Joshua Balata. I've been living my dream life in France for the last 5 years. I write online. I've taken to fitness, running, and lifting for the last 2 years now. And I have a bunch of other projects that give me a lot of joy. Most of these hobbies stopped this year because they were heavily impacted by these 7 blocked projects. I stopped writing online. I stopped making videos. I stopped doing calligraphy. I stopped working on languages entirely. The only thing I clung to this year though was this fitness stuff. I continued eating healthy and I continued doing running and lifting, and I'm really proud of that. But for everything else, I was fixating on this system, this French system to move. And here's the hot take. French bureaucracy does not care about your pretty. Now, I've been working in data migration for the last 3 years, and when something gets stuck, which happens every day, there is one golden rule. You look at the data dependencies. And once you isolate a problem, while it can take some time to unblock it, you continue making progress in other parallel areas which are not dependent to this problem. This is extremely rational, but it's hard to apply on your private life. And this parallel processing is what really helped me out with my private life, in fact. And I realized that I was treating my life like a single lane road. If this nationality application was blocked, then the C1 language learning preparation behind it was stopped. And the other car behind it was also stopped. And the one behind it was also stopped because I keep fixating on that one problem which wouldn't move. And so I realized that I need to create a second lane, find a way to work on something else that does not have any connection with this nationality application. Now, enter my NAS. I had this hardware sitting around in my apartment for quite some time now. I had just connected it and moved my heavy files onto it, and since then I'd never touched it. So I started vibe coding with ChatGPT and my NAS. I now have a private network between all my devices to send data at high speeds between my devices using my LAN. I have a VPN set up so I can look like I'm sitting in my home's LAN when I'm not in fact in my home's LAN. And I also have Imish, this self-hosting photo service thing, which has machine learning, which replaces Google Photos, because Google Photos is expensive, and this is 14 terabytes. And this wasn't exactly easy. It took me 3 weeks to get something functional on my NAS. I was not used to coding on the terminal, so I had to learn that. I asked some of my friends for help. I started working on that. I now know how Docker containers work. I had no idea what that was before working on this NAS thing. By finishing this complex project, I think I was kind of signaling to my brain that I'm not stuck. It's only some projects that are stuck and they're completely out of my control. And what's worse is I was not really working on anything else because of this emotional fatigue. I also built this dashboard to not pay for Strava and Heavy's premium, and it lets me visualize my recovery. It has gamified my workouts this year for sure. This is just an HTML file that I directed ChatGPT to write. It is inspired by the orange color for Strava and the blue color for Heavy. These 2 apps send this data, all of my workout data, to this Google Sheets, and Google Sheets is connected to this HTML file. This HTML file alone was 10 versions, and there are decimal points between the 10. So it took me weeks to build this stuff. Now, I'm not a full stack developer, so that makes me even more proud to have achieved these things, to have these open source platforms to talk to each other. It makes me even more proud. Now, although it's completely disconnected to my NAS project, almost like magic, the paperwork stuff in India, they worked out and they just showed up. The entire document list is a whole thing, and I'll surely make another video about it. But once that came down, I had the energy to go look for an apartment. I visited like half a dozen apartments, and that takes a lot of energy. And I finally found this place, which speeds up my application process to the French nationality, because this one is inside of Paris. And all of this stuff happened because I worked on my NAS indirectly. And I don't know what exactly it did to my brain, but it certainly gave me a lot of energy, a lot of positive energy, and a lot of energy to get back to work on other things that I was just pushing off up until June, July. Now, when you start moving in one area and gain some momentum there, then all this emotional fatigue from the other areas, they start to ease out. And that's what happened with me. In the second half of the year, because I had continued running all these months, I started lifting weights as well. And all of a sudden, I had all of this energy to invest on other projects. There's a good news at the end of the tunnel, for this story at least. Now, if you're in that stuck phase yourself, especially when navigating life abroad, stop waiting for permission to move. Build a parallel system and keep your anchor habits. Like fitness was one for me. Find a new lane for your energy. At first, you feel like you don't have any energy and you kind of deserve to be down. That's how I felt. This is that pity party phase. But a little bit of momentum in another project can bring you plenty of energy to unblock your situation. I stopped focusing on my bottlenecks and they vanished. When I first moved to France, this was like an identity hit for me because I was the guy who was supposed to learn languages really well. And a year later, my French was not really going anywhere. When I was supposed to be looking for internships, it was really quite a decision to put everything on pause and to go work on a farm. And this is that parallel route thing, When I went to the farm, it's not magically that my internship will necessarily work out, but it made sure that my French was polished. That was the single best investment I have done for my career here in France, was to nail the language, to speak fluent French. The systems I used to finally crack French are in this FrenchMesh Handbook, and you can join the waitlist to get a copy when the first version is out. And if you need the administrative systems that helped me survive the move to France, I'm updating my Fit in France version 2 guide, which will be out soon. That's another one of those projects which completely went on pause and has nothing to do with my first 7 projects, but as life. I remember feeling this way another time before. Always happens in December. This video might be interesting. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.